Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. So just one piece of news this time out, but it's a pretty significant one, especially if you're interested in Avatar merchandise. But I think even if you're just kind of trying to keep up with the big Avatar stuff that's happening, this I think gives us an insight into when Paramount are actually going to try and more heavily push Avatar in the build-up to Avatar Studios stuff. So what we have here is the toy company Jazwares have signed a master licensing agreement with Paramount Global for Avatar The Last Airbender. I believe this is the full press release of this agreement. So Avatar is the headline completely in this, even though other Paramount franchises get mentioned, as you can see here. So there's it's also plus North America multi-contract deals for all new costumes and accessories. And it also features properties like Dora, SpongeBob, Star Trek, and Yellowstone. But Avatar is the headline here with the idea that they have this master licensing agreement. Now, straight away, I will say, I don't really know what specifically that means. Like, okay, they have the license and they're doing a variety of things, as we'll get into. Well, I'm not really sure what it means to have the master licensing agreement. Does that mean that they effectively just have the merch license for pretty much whatever they want to do, rather than like a specific avenue of the license? I think that might be, what the idea here is, rather than anything else. But anyway, the actual press release begins, and yeah. The idea is that they've inked multi-contract deals to release a robust slate of top-of-the-line toys, costumes, and accessories based on some of the entertainment's giants' most iconic properties. As part of the new agreement, Jazwares will hold global master rights to produce figures, toy vehicles, dolls, plush, and playsets for Nickelodeon's Avatar The Last Airbender franchise. In a multi-contract collaboration, Jazwares will also possess North American rights for costumes and accessories for Avatar, and then also other properties like Dora and so on. And this stuff is expected to hit retail in 2025, so next year. So there are then two quotes here. So what we have here is the Executive Vice President of Jazwares saying that joining forces with Paramount combines the world's most beloved entertainment franchises with Jazwares' unparalleled ability in authentically translating IP across toys and costumes like nobody else in the industry. This is an amazing collaboration for Jazwares to expand our portfolio with some of pop culture's most iconic stories and characters into products we know fans are going to love. And then we have here Vice President Consumer Products and Experiences at Paramount says, Jazwares has a proven track record of taking culture-defining brands like Avatar and other Paramount franchises and creating outstanding products for consumers to connect with. We are eager to get these product lines of toys and costumes into the hands of fans everywhere. So that's the core of this. Now, I want to go back to January and Toy World magazine from January 2024, and they also interviewed a vice executive of consumer products at Paramount, and when talking about sort of the year ahead, so 2024, it was said that this was going to be a year where they're doubling down on their big franchises that they already have out on market, Paw Patrol, TMNT, but they're setting the stage for two long-awaited reinventions, Avatar and also Dora the Explorer. So I think this is the first sign of that stuff actually happening. So setting the stage is creating the deals, what's actually going to be happening for merch for next year. So that's kind of the reality of kind of what's happening here. And now we have this pretty big deal here. So straight away, I think the important thing here is that this is a bigger thing than, say, oh, McFarlane Toys have the ability to make toys for Avatar. This is a bigger thing than that this is a proper partnership between Jazwares and Avatar, to the point where like it's a master license and they're doing all these different types of things. So specifically what they talk about here for Avatar is figures, toy vehicles, dolls, plush, and play sets, and then costumes and accessories is a more, I guess, North American thing. We'll see what exactly that means, but the big thing is like they cover most of the standard toy stuff that you would expect a company like Jazwares to do. So that's the kind of exciting aspect here. So there's two things to talk about here, and that's obviously one is sort of speculation about what we're exactly going to see here, and then two is probably there's the timing of this, and then what exactly is actually happening here. So the timing thing I think is quite interesting, because if these are going to come out in 2025, I don't know if this means like early 2025 or like mid 2025. Let's just assume that it means roughly like a year from now. So let's say maybe like this time next year, an Avatar merch line is going to drop, including all of this stuff and some costumes and stuff like that. What are we doing as a franchise at that point? That would make us like what, 6 to 7 months before the January 2026 first movie, Aang: The Last Airbender. Does this basically, the point here is, does this deal, I'm assuming it basically includes the ability to do licensing for merchandise for Avatar Studios projects. That you can right now do stuff for Avatar and Korra, I'm guessing, but then this is, I'm guessing, a multi-year thing building up to the idea that Avatar is going to become more popular, and they now have the exclusive, to a certain degree, licensing rights for the main Avatar toy line is what they're doing here. But if they're going to release a bunch of stuff in 2025, which for sure is like before the movie comes out, what are we doing here? Because, okay, sometimes toy lines release a couple months before the thing comes out, but that doesn't tend to happen that often. So the idea obviously is that this is actual like ATLA. There's going to be like, you know, book 1, 2, 3, Aang, Katara, Sokka, Zuko, that sort of thing. It's going to be that aspect of Avatar. So we're getting a sort of, you know, like kind of like retro toy line to a certain degree here, using the stuff that's already out. And I'm guessing they want to have the lines in place, and I'm guessing they can just use those similar kind of lines for when the new Avatar stuff comes out, is my guess. The timing is weird because obviously this is going to be a year basically after, you know, Netflix Avatar is hit. It'll be still a year probably before the next season of Netflix Avatar hits. It's still going to be probably like 6 months, a couple of months before the new Avatar stuff comes out. So the big question you probably would have here is this going to drop? Is the merch going to drop like alongside a bigger push elsewhere in the franchise for Avatar, in terms of what's happening with the series? If the movie has maybe been pushed back, what's happening with the first series? Is there a plan to do something else to really heavily promote and push Avatar in the middle of 2025, where we're going to be in that weird transition point where we're beginning to maybe hear the first bits and pieces like in detail about the movie and what Avatar Studios is doing, or what? Because the last thing that we want to happen here is for a big Avatar merchandise line to happen, hit everywhere, and for it to fail because it's badly mistimed. That has happened a few too many times with Avatar, and that's the last thing I think we want to happen here. We want this to drop at the right time, set the stage so that there's merch lines in place for when the new Avatar stuff does come out. And then we want, the key point here, when the new Avatar stuff comes out, we want there to be merch for that stuff there. Like the designs that of the characters for the new movie, like adult Aang, you know, adult Katara and stuff like that. We want to have the action figures, the plushes and stuff like that for those iterations of the characters on the shelves at the same time. Something that we kind of really haven't seen in a very long time for Avatar. That's the hope here, I think, from the timing perspective on this, is that they get that all right. As for like the fact that it's Jazwares is the reveal on who this big kind of licensee kind of is. It's probably not the obvious place that I think a lot of people might have chose for Avatar, in that like maybe the more obvious ones in terms of like, more used to is like, you know, Hasbro, Mattel, or something like that. But the fact that they're highlighting this quite heavily, like this is the headliner on the kind of press release, is Avatar, even though it also includes some of these other franchises, that speaks to the idea of like Jazwares are treating this like quite seriously. I would have maybe preferred that like the person from Jazwares specifically mentioned Avatar more specifically, but anyway, it's probably still maybe somewhat early days. So the hope here is that, like, okay, Jazwares is still a pretty big company, but that Avatar then becomes a big part of what they're doing. It becomes one of their main IPs, and even if we maybe don't have the most incredible hopes initially for these being the best like action figures imaginable, the fact that we're not just maybe like one of many at one of the bigger companies is maybe a decent thing. A lot depends on what the toys actually are. Are they kind of high quality? How's the character distribution going to be on these, as we'll get into some sort of speculation about what they'll actually do. I don't have a lot of experience with recent Jazwares things, but like they at the moment have like, you know, they're doing the Fortnite toys. I think they do Halo toys, or at least some lines of Halo stuff. That sort of thing is what Jazwares have at the moment. So I think Avatar is going to be a nice kind of thing for them, and we'll see how their quality is. Now, some brief speculation on, okay, what they're doing here. Figures. So straight away, action figures. I'd say it's been a bit mixed over the last few years with Avatar action figures, mainly from the perspective of none of the lines have lasted long enough to get to the characters that I think people really want. So the hope will be with a full-on planned out toy line that you can better distribute those characters and give people confidence that, like, if I start collecting these figures, I'm going to get the Ty Lee figure in my collection eventually. Something that we haven't had up to now. With most of the toy lines. Like, Funko is about the only thing that's actually got to like a Ty Lee and a May. Everywhere else has barely got the full gang out, that sort of thing. So, you know, if you can prove that you can put out, like, say, a character like a Suki in an early wave, and, you know, get that blend of doing the main characters, but also the kind of beloved fan characters who maybe aren't the most absolutely hugely significant characters in the whole series, that's a good thing. I think also, going back to the point about Avatar: The Last Airbender versus you know, Korra, what exactly do they mean when they say they have the Avatar: The Last Airbender franchise? Is that specifically ATLA, or is that effectively, from a licensing perspective, what the franchise is referred to as? And like, this actually includes Korra, and it includes new Avatar content as it comes out. Who knows? Because I think it might be a bit of a mistake to have this be just a specific ATLA toy line if there's nothing specifically ATLA going on at the time. So it'd be cool if they could make this more of a kind of Legends kind of toy line where like the waves can have a mix of Avatar and Korra characters. That would be, I think, a very, very cool thing to have to highlight that. Okay, you're not just going to get bogged down with the ATLA characters who've had toys over the years. Korra characters haven't really had toys, so there's a fun factor there when it comes to the figures. And then it really just comes down to, like, you know, how articulated are they going to be, how good are the sculpts, what price points are they going to do, and, you know, how broad are the waves, how much of a plan do they have here. Toy vehicles is a quite interesting thing to put out there as a whole separate thing. I'm assuming for Avatar, this is basically the vehicle and also animal kind of approach, because that's effectively like what McFarlane had with like the Appa and the Komodo Rhino, is that they were effectively a vehicle price point, but they're animals. I'm guessing that's effectively what they mean here. Now, to be fair, we do have vehicles in Avatar, especially if Korra gets included. That opens the door to a lot of other types of vehicles. And especially because they mentioned stuff like, you know, play sets. Like, imagine they just released like a team Avatar, Korra team Avatar with the Avatar. That would be really cool. Like, you just have like Korra, Asami, Mako, Bolin, and then you get the car for them all to go in. That'd be a really nice little play set to have, certainly. And then, like, maybe there's a vehicle one that's like a Naga and Korra, an Appa and Aang. You know, we would hope that we maybe it does enough to where we can get like a badger mole, a dragon in here, and some of the other animals that we maybe don't focus as much on. Dolls is quite interesting because, like, I think for the most part, like, we've not really had anything super like this for Avatar. I suppose technically, like, what the Migo Aang that came out a few years ago is effectively like a doll, but I'd be very intrigued to see kind of what the idea is with them, because they're doing plushes, so kind of like dolls obviously suggests something quite different there. I'm guessing that maybe just refers to like they'll effectively be like figures but with like cloth clothing, and it'll be more kind of leaning in that direction. But that could be something that like surprises us, like in terms of something quite unique that we haven't really seen before. Plush, obviously there's still a lot of Avatar plush that kind of happens these days. For a lot of people, this might just be like an easy way to kind of get access to like an Apple plush you can just buy from wherever. But, you know, depending on what they do, this could be quite interesting. And then, like I said before, playsets is also something we haven't necessarily super seen before. Because, like, even in the original Avatar Toyline, we didn't quite have, like, playsets. It kind of didn't quite get to that stage where we had these. The initial Lego sets that came out were effectively playsets, but we've never really had anything else beyond that. So what do they mean by this? Like, what would be a playset for Avatar? Because that would suggest like a location, like a big thing. So what would this be? Like a portion of an air temple, something like that. A portion of like a fire temple or something like that. What significant locations would they do like this? So like an Earth Arena, kind of Earth Rumble kind of playset might be a cool thing. Pro Bending Arena on the Korra side of thing feels like a kind of obvious one to do potentially. That could be quite interesting because this bigger scale full Toyline stuff is what we haven't quite seen. Because even the McFarlane stuff, which felt like somewhat substantial, was kind of just smaller scale, bigger scale figures, and then like a size for like animals. They didn't do like play sets as such. And then costumes and accessories. So I'm guessing that like includes like role play kind of style toys, that sort of thing, which is a nice thing to have for when we go into the new stuff, obviously, as well. So gonna wrap it up there. That was just some discussion, speculation on the kind of new kind of Avatar toy line happening. And I know for some people, if you're not into merch, this is not going to mean anything to you, but it's, given that we don't really know, we're a bit in the dark about like when exactly they're going to ramp up to talking about stuff for Avatar, this at least gives us a sense that like some point next year a toy line is going to get revealed. It's going to then come out, and by the time that's out, we assume that's going to tie into other stuff that Paramount is doing, because they're going to want to support the toy line doing well with the content actually coming out. So when exactly this releases, because I'm assuming with toys we'll find out about that like somewhat early, and the toys could give us a bit of an insight into what's happening with the actual content. So it is more than just like toys. It could give us an insight into other stuff. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this. Jazwares is going to be the new kind of main manufacturer for Avatar toys going forward. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think this is a good thing? Bad thing? How do you think this is all going to work out? But otherwise, that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.